Welcome to Power Your Life Today. I'm Kristy Jo, Mind and Body Strategist, and today we're talking with Julie Coraccio. She considers herself a Chief Possibility Officer and often asks, what else is possible? She's an award-winning professional life organizer, author, and certified life coach. She was the first professional organizer in both home and business to specialize in being green in the state of North Carolina. She is the owner of Reawaken Your Brilliance and has a very popular podcast called Clearing the Clutter Inside and Out. For years, she worked as a professional organizer and taught people how to clear clutter, whether it was for hire, barter, or rescuing family and friends from their clutter nightmares. What started her professional organization and clutter-free living ball was she was a nanny. She was a nanny in Massachusetts. She was juggling 2 children in their busy schedules as well as running a household. In her first few weeks, she left the house without a complete and organized diaper bag, and that was all it took to ignite her passion. From her experiences as a nanny, her need to organize grew. Soon, not only her home was organized, but family and friends were asking for help. It's been her experience being organized and clutter-free brings peace and reduces stress. In 2009, she took the plunge and started her business, Healing Through Organization. Clients then began asking for deeper work, and so she started developing her personal coaching. Now she talks about so much more than just physical clutter, and you are going to love this discussion we have together because we will touch on you can have emotional, mental, financial, physical, health, or spiritual clutter. She's going to talk about how anything that prevents you from creating a life you desire can be clutter. She'll help you learn how to become aware of your mental stressors, how to process the relationship clutter for healing and freedom. She will talk about stopping the comparison energy, how everything in life comes from either love or fear, and how to begin building your awareness of all the clutter so you can start making a difference in your own life. You will love her. The links to all of her information and podcast are in the show notes, so buckle up. We are so glad to have Julie with us here on Power Your Life Today. By the way, if you are new to Power Your Life Today, I would love to share with you my free audio tracks to help you plow through resistance over at poweryourlifetoday.com. Whether it's emotional, mental, or spiritual trials, mindset coaching is where we can find solutions and begin making more progress. These 5 audio tracks are going to channel you through lack of motivation, emotional stressors, and just that feeling of being stuck. Now, this is free and my gift to you. So head over to poweryourlifetoday.com and get those 5 audio tracks today.
Clutter is delayed decisions, it's stuck, stagnant energy, but for me, it all boils down to this. Clutter is anything that prevents you from creating the life you choose, deserve, and desire.
So it's not just a tangible physical item is what I'm hearing.
Oh, it's so much more than that. You can have mental clutter, emotional clutter, clutter in your relationships, in health and wellness, and you can have clutter, emotional clutter, spiritual clutter, and energetic clutter. And don't forget financial clutter. Truly, I have learned the more that I do this, it really is anything that is preventing you from creating the life you desire. And a lot of times we focus just on the physical because that's what most people talk about. But whatever is going on the inside of your life is directly reflected in the outside and vice versa. So if you start to clear some of your physical clutter, it's going to have an impact on your inner life and vice versa. If you start dealing with some of that emotional clutter, it's going to show up in your physical clutter. You're going to be able to release that as well.
That's so interesting. And so it seems like we would have to start being even mindful of what on earth is going on. How do we start being aware of what is going on? Where is our own personal clutter? Do you have a formula for that?
Oh, I don't think there's a one-stop shop formula. Although you hit on the key thing, that one of the key phrases that I always say, half the battle is awareness, and then half the battle is taking action. So, for instance, let's talk about mental clutter for a moment. Where are you? Are you present with me in this interview? Are you in the future thinking about what you have to make for dinner tonight? Or the interview that's happening tomorrow, or the client right after this? Are you completely present with me? Or are you stuck in the past thinking, oh, I don't know if I should have scheduled this woman. What happened weeks ago with my husband? And so that's just a simple example, because the present moment is our point of power to change. So become aware, where am I? Or what is your stressor, your mental stressor? What causes you to go into anxiety or get stressed out? For me, being in a car accident is something that stresses me out because it's happened a couple times and I've been alone. I was, in winter once. And so I have a plan. Okay, well, now we have a safety kit in the car. Anything happens, we are good to go. You also have satellite stuff on the car. I'm sorry, I'm not a car person. My husband set all this up. But I have taken steps to clear that mental clutter. So there's a game plan that's in action. So the first step is let's become aware. And that you hit on the head, too, about being mindful. So I'm a huge fan of having some type of mindfulness practice. It can be as simple as breathing. To me, mowing the lawn is mindful because it allows me to just dump everything that's going on in my head and be very present. So developing a mindfulness practice allows us to become more aware.
How do we go through that process? So let's take that mowing the lawn, for instance. I'm imagining me when you said that. I'm picturing me out on the front lawn, mowing the lawn, and like you said, am I present right then, or am I thinking about something else? And here's an interesting note, and I'm picking up so much as you're saying this. So at what point do we need to force that mindfulness and presence? Are we supposed to be there all the time, or is there a time to go and play on my mental playground and be in my own world? Is that wrong? Should I be working on that?
Here's been my experience. And again, I think that it is a different path for everyone. So am I present all the time? Absolutely not. Do I daydream and go to, I like that term, mental playground. I think that's fantastic. Do I hang out at my mental playground? Absolutely. Here's what I have found and what in my personal life, as well as people that I have worked with. The more you do a meditation or a breathing exercise, then you naturally begin to come into the present moment. And when someone like Eckhart Tolle, it's worth reading his book. The Power of Now, and can explain it much more eloquently than I can. But that truly is our point of power to change. So the more you do a mindfulness practice, you will just naturally begin to do that. And, I do a lot of personal development work because I want to be the best version of me, because the best I am allows me to support people around me. And I had class last night, and it was about being present. I mean, we've been meeting for over a year. And again, bringing it back to that simple thing of being present. But if you choose something, and it has to work for you. And the other thing, if it becomes really, I've got to meditate today and cross it off the list, to me that defeats the purpose, because it's becoming rote. It's not coming from an authentic place. So find some type of mindfulness practice that supports you. I mentioned mowing the lawn. Some people might say, that's not a mindfulness practice. And I say, Pasha, find what works for you. I have a friend that loves classical music, and that's a meditative time for him. So find something. So the more you do that, brings you present. And, you do a podcast. You have to plan ahead and do things like that. And so it's kind of that balance. But again, always, when can we bring it back to the present, or doing one task? Multitasking does not work. And they have done studies that have found that. Be present with what you are. If you're hanging out with your family, set down the iPhone. Do whatever you're doing. If you're washing your clothes, wash your clothes. Be present with that one activity.
I'm thrilled to hear you say that we should not multitask. I still find people believe that, and they use that to position women as, women know how to multitask. And something that I have found is it's impossible. Something it's muscle memory. We can do something that's muscle memory, but not in the consciousness of the mind. So if we start to identify that we have some clutter, let's say someone's listening to this podcast and they're saying, man, she categories. Let me think about this. Like, maybe there's something in my relationship, some clutter that's there. How do I even start to work through this and navigate it and release it? Where do I go from here?
Well, you can always call me, but, sorry.
Exactly.
Make it like fun. Okay, so let's take an example of, and if there's something you'd like to discuss and are comfortable, I'm happy to do that as a concrete example, or I can choose something and make up of something.
Sure.
What works for you?
I actually, and I'm very open on this podcast, so all of our listeners know basically my whole life story. Well, most of it. So I will share something. I have been doing some emotional healing work in regards to, I have very severe scoliosis. So I've been recently starting this treatment with touch therapy and emotional processing. And yesterday we really worked on releasing some of the energy that was cluttered around my heart. And it's a neat experience. My eyes, it's not an emotional crying, but my body just releases water and tears just pour down your face, and it's fantastic. So what we discovered, the woman asked me, what relationship have you not let go of? And it's holding you back. Talk, please. And I took a deep breath because, whoa, all of a sudden you're in a situation that you're being asked to release something. So, a breakup from 4 years ago, somebody that I dearly loved and really, I wouldn't say hurt me, the situation. It was devastating, and I did not want the breakup to happen. And I was able to release that. So I would maybe use that as some clutter. Maybe if somebody had a past heartbreak or maybe a divorce, something that caused a great deal of pain that maybe they're holding on to some anger or resentment over. Could we go that direction?
Sure, we can go that direction. Now, there are lots of components to that because I love your example because you've talked, everything's energy. We are talking and there's an energy between us. The desk that I'm looking at is energy. So even if you have intellectually processed the breakup, you could still have pain like you did around your heart and your energetic field, and you might not have dealt with it and had emotional pain. So again, the first thing would be awareness. Take a step. Okay, have I really processed this divorce or this breakup? And then I'm a huge fan of sitting quietly, and we hold things in our body. And I'm going to talk about physical clutter in a moment related to something like this. And so, am I at peace with that? And the example I would use is I had some trauma as a child. And any time that I'd talk about it, I would burst into tears. And I knew I was healed from it when I could talk about it and I was neutral. Oh, this happened to me as a kid. No right or wrong, no good or bad. It was what it was, and I didn't burst into tears. So that's a good indication that you've healed when you're able to talk about something, you're neutral about it, you don't get emotional, but checking in with your body. So if you're sitting there, how do I feel about the divorce or the ending of the relationship? Is it anywhere in my body? And that's why I mentioned earlier about the mindfulness practice. The more you do something like that on a regular basis, it allows you to tune in to that. Our body, we have all the knowledge we need. It is there. We just need for it to come out. So I would start with something like that. You had the touch thing that you did, which was very beneficial. What physical clutter do you have? Do you still have T-shirts from a relationship? Do you still have momentums from a relationship? I will share a personal story. So I haven't been married that long. Have been married 4 years this fall. But prior to meeting my husband, I was in an in and off relationship for 20 years. And it was something that it wasn't right for either of us. I loved him dearly. I have wished nothing but the best for him. And I'll never forget the moment that I realized, okay, it's done. It's over. And I spent 20 minutes in this room where I am, howling, crying. Part of me could step back and be like, I sound like a deranged animal. But that was my process. I truly grieved. And you know what? When that 20 minutes was over, I was done. I went through any physical items that I had from the relationship. I was able to release. So I had to honor that emotion. And we sometimes label emotions as being bad or wrong, and that's simply not the case because everything's energy. We just choose to label it right or wrong. So if you have to get angry, get angry. And I believe that, emotions are energy in motion. So punch something if you have to, dance, scream, whatever it is, start to get that out. So it's becoming aware. Where am I holding it in the body? What physical clutter do I have related to that? And then if you can take it a step further, and again, life is a process, do what you're able to do, but what can you learn from that relationship? What part did you play in it? And I have a great example. I have a friend, unfortunately, who found out that her spouse cheated on her. And she is in the middle of this right now, but she is clear enough to be able to see her role in that. Meaning, I pushed him, or I was constantly assuming that he was cheating, and where were you and what were you doing? And so she was able to see the role that she played. And again, there's no right or wrong in this. This is about how can I learn? How can I grow? How can I move forward? Does that make sense? Is that helpful?
Yeah, it does. And I'm curious, just for the sake of our listeners, let's go into that one a little bit more, the spouse cheating or the boyfriend or the girlfriend or whatever it be, and being mindful of, so you suggest awareness of our part in the problem, but also is there space that people might overburden themselves and blame themselves entirely? How do we differentiate and navigate that?
Yeah, so again, I think if you need support, always ask for it. If you need someone to support you in doing that, there absolutely is that line where you can cross over and it's unhealthy. Oh, and I used to be in that space, so I can relate to it. It's my fault. I wasn't good enough. I didn't do everything right. I didn't put enough energy in the relationship. I should have done more. And that's not healthy either. It's coming from that, where can I see my part in this play? And I'm so happy that you brought that up, because I think that's so important. Because I think a lot of times, especially as women, we take on all the responsibility, we take on all the blame, and that's not correct. We need to own our parts, but we don't need to own everything. So that's where I think you'd benefit from conversation with someone else, because you have that person who's neutral, who can give you a different perspective and who can say, no, that's not yours. You're taking on that, because she's not excusing him from cheating, not by any stretch of the imagination. So what she's also doing is, okay, you've cheated. We need to go to therapy to see if we can save this marriage. Here's the role I played. And the other thing that she's done, and I was so happy because she reached out to me, because we've known each other a long time, and she said, you're spiritual and I'd like some thoughts. And I said to her, what's the golden nugget here? What can we take away from this really awful event? And she said, I'm having a spiritual awakening. As much as this has been hectic and it's been awful, I'm seeing that this entire time my kind of soul has been reaching out to me and I've been ignoring her. And so now I can say, okay, I'm ready. I'm here. I'm awake. And I said, it's a horrible, really painful event you're going through, and you've got that gift. So that's the other thing I would say. What is like the relationship that you had where it didn't work out? Like the one that didn't work out for me, this man allowed me to be open to my husband, because he was just kind of different. And had I not had that experience, maybe I wouldn't have been open to my husband. And I love my husband dearly and wouldn't trade him for the world. So I think the more, and again, I'm not saying don't do the spiritual override and bypass your emotions, because a big, and I don't like the word mistake, because if we learn something, it's not a mistake. A lot of times people don't want to feel the pain. I feel we live in a society that says numb it through alcohol, numb it through food, numb it through, some unhealthy habit. Feel the feeling. It's okay to cry. It's okay to scream. And when you acknowledge the feelings, that's part of the healing process, because a lot of times we push it down. And, Jung said, what you resist persists. So trust me, those emotions are going to come out. I was bothered by something, and until I had a conversation with my husband to clear it up, I got angry over stupid stuff. Why did you spend the $10 rebate on the Discover card? I mean, come on now.
Yeah, we all do that.
Right, exactly.
If you're someone who is ready to get in the gym and start seeing real results in a short amount of time, head over to the App Store to download the Body Buddies Fat Loss Workout app. After coaching scores of male and female fitness athletes and bodybuilders, bringing in their topmost physiques, I wanted to make something that would help all of my body buddies, no matter how experienced they are in the gym. So, whether you're new to lifting or a seasoned athlete, you are going to love the focused training the Body Buddies Fat Loss Workout app gives you and the short 20 to 45-minute workouts you can knock out quickly. I've designed the workouts using the latest research in muscle strength and fat loss, which means you will see results faster. With video exercise demos, written descriptions, circuit timers, and a complete library of workouts from upper and lower body to abs, cardio, and stretching, you'll be able to find exactly what your body needs to take it to the next level. One of the first steps to power your life today is to power your body. Learn more at fatlossworkoutapp.com or go straight to the App Store to download Body Buddies Fat Loss Workout app.
Many of our listeners know I'm a Mormon, member of Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and they kind of get this perception that, if it doesn't fit in my religion, that it's not spiritual. And I think that's that's a narrow viewpoint. So I would love to hear the spiritual viewpoint from you, and without ever telling us if you're a member of a religion or if you just practice spirituality. I don't think we need to know that. I think for many of our listeners, because they are also LDS or Mormon, seeing the viewpoint that spirituality can be independent of religious practice. Does that make sense?
It does, and you said it so eloquently, and I appreciate it. And truthfully, when I started my process and I was like, physical clutter, spiritual clutter sounds so much better with emotional and mental and all the other stuff than religious clutter. From a pure kind of wordsmithing thing, that's why I use it. And I think completely agree with you. It doesn't matter what you practice, because they're all, I believe, spiritual truths that are just like, don't murder. You know what? Just about everyone who has some sort of belief system will agree with that statement. So for me, spiritual clutter is something like comparing yourself to others. How can you compare this unique, awesome being that you are to other people? You can't. And so think of the energy, and this kind of also comprises a little bit of mental and emotional clutter that we spend comparing ourselves to others. I lived in Los Angeles for 10 years, and I remember in my spiritual journey, what I would call kind of my awakening, or really truly beginning of my awareness, happened out there. However, prior to that, living in LA, it's the amount of energy I spent on comparing myself to how thin I was to other women in Los Angeles, how pretty I was. That was such a complete waste. So to me, spiritual clutter, that's an example, something like that it's really kind of a truth, kind of getting to our soul in ways that we aren't kind to ourselves. Or spiritual clutter to me is, are you following your passion? Do you do what brings you joy each day? So those are the type of things that I consider spiritual clutter. It really isn't, it doesn't matter what you practice. Most people would understand that. And I believe be open to that.
I love that. So let's go down the path of the comparison factor. I actually put a podcast out. I have my nutrition fitness business. I put a podcast out about social media, and it was a pretty strong podcast. I ended up getting a lot of good feedback from a lot of emails and messages. And I basically, because I teach dance and I'm around a lot of young girls, developing girls, and see this happening like crazy. And it's not just the little girls. It's all of us grown adult women too. And sorry, men, yeah. I'm leaving you out, and I know you're there too. But let's really dive into, how do we even stop in a world that is saying, compare, you're not good enough, buy this, do this. Where do we even start to develop the unique and authentic self?
So the first thing is awareness. Notice where you compare. I mentioned a moment ago, when I was in Los Angeles, I would always compare my thinness compared to other women, or my beauty. So, okay, that's where I compare. So then I like to, in the moment, okay, this is where I compare. So now I have to start to pay attention. If I would say, oh, I'm not as thin as that woman, I love my smile. I love my eyes. And immediately, because I like to shift that energy, I want to get out of that comparison mindset and begin to shift it. So immediately, when I notice I'm doing it, give myself a compliment. And one thing that comparing ourselves to others allows us to do is if I'm spending my energy comparing myself to Susie, then I don't have to look inward. I don't have to look at areas where I could improve, where I could be better. And so if I'm spending my energy over there, so what in my life, why do I feel the need to compare? And you had mentioned something a moment ago. I really believe, Kristy, that everything that's going on, I believe there are two energies, love or fear. And anything that's not of love goes under fear. I'd say maybe three with gratitude, although I consider gratitude and love the same thing. When we boil it down, I believe that whatever our challenges come originate from feeling not good enough, not worthy enough, and not feeling loved. And when you really take the time to distill it, to really dig deep and figure out where it's coming from, I believe that most stuff, if not everything, originates from that. So if you're not feeling good enough, what's that really about? Oh, well, you know what? I just don't feel good enough about myself. Well, why don't you feel good enough about yourself? Well, you know, I failed this test the other day, and I'm really upset at myself because I didn't take the time to study. I didn't prepare for it. And so what I like to do is, it's a very original title called Take It Down. And so I start with whatever the feeling is and see if I can keep asking questions and going deeper and doing that. And so that's to say, okay, if I can originate where this, and again, I'm putting negative in quotes because I think it's important that we start to begin the process of not seeing things as good and bad. It's just, oh, this is a guidepost. This is an awareness that something isn't so groovy and I need to switch that. And then the other part of that is, instead of spending time comparing myself to others, how can I be better in my life? What areas do I need to work on? What of my clutter do I need to clear? And so if we focus the energy on improving ourselves, life only gets better from that. It's wasted energy to compare ourselves to others. And I think it's so important. I love that you're working with young women, and I think our families need to support that. And when a little girl says, I'm fat, no, you aren't. You're healthy. And pointing out the positive attributes and getting them into the mindset of, okay, these are all the wonderful things, and educating. You know what? These magazine models aren't real. They have been airbrushed. It's not, what are the facts here? Let's get back to the facts. And if we instill self-esteem in our children, then they'll be able to navigate this world. It doesn't mean that they, won't have issues, but I think when we're born, we're perfect, and then life happens to us. Maybe a teacher says something to us, a friend or a family member, and then that kind of gets lodged in us, and that becomes our truth when it really isn't our truth. Does that make sense?
100%, and I find it so fascinating. It's about that education process, and that starts with us as adults knowing and having this awareness in ourselves first. Isn't it about modeling, right? If there's a problem in the kids, probably is starting in the adults.
Yes.
Who are they modeling after? So thank you for that. I'm curious about you talking about love and gratitude being, you said the same. Did I hear you right?
Yes. So if everything's energy, when you're in love, think about how that feels. It feels wonderful. It feels great. The universe, God, source, whatever you feel comfortable with using, responds to that. And where the attention goes, the energy flows. So if you focus on love and gratitude, that's one way to clear your clutter, but that's also a way to completely change your life. And gratitude, I feel, is one step if your listeners take to start to begin a practice, because if you're in gratitude, you're less likely to accumulate physical clutter because you're like, wow, I'm looking around. I'm really grateful for everything that I have. So then the need to keep up with the Joneses might start to go away if you practice this on a regular basis. And we don't have mental clutter of, oh, I need to get more, I need to have this, or I'm not blah, 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 when you're grateful for, I'm in the present moment. I have everything I need right in this moment. And again, same with the spirituality. On a regular practice, if you can bring it home to gratitude, a lot of the stuff just doesn't fade away, but you're able to deal with better. Wow, I'm grateful that my husband had an affair because now I'm having a spiritual awakening. It doesn't mean the pain's gone away, but what golden nugget can you find in any situation? And the more challenging it is for you, even better if you can find the gratitude, because that really is just, you can say, I'm grateful. Thank you. And think about it. I struggled with this. I had a friend come over. I was kind of, I'm cranky. I was single. I wanted to meet someone. And she was like, look around you. See everything that you have. And when she kind of kicked my butt, I was like, she's right. And so that was kind of a huge awakening for me. And last year in 2016, on my personal Facebook page, which is public, I wrote a daily gratitude every day of the year, because I said, I really want to make this a regular practice. And it was wonderful when people would email me and say, you know what, I really appreciate you're doing that, because it's forcing me to look for gratitude in my life. And what's important to have real gratitude, not just doing it by rote, just not doing it to cross off your list, because how genuine is that? How authentic is that? And you know what, if you're really struggling right now, that's okay, but can you have gratitude because you have water, clean water to drink? Can you have gratitude because you have access to health care? Start with the basics. And when you do that, it shifts, it works, and then you're able to build upon that. And then get to a complete state where you're like, wow, every single day I am grateful.
Gratitude is the key to happiness, truly.
It is.
This has been so inspiring, and I hope our listeners are committing to take action and to start being grateful, being aware, the mindfulness practice, some of those takeaways. And I think, I go back and listen to these a few times, which is so great. But maybe give us one other takeaway or something you'd like us to go home and do for the next week.
For the next week, well, I'll give you a couple. I don't think I could give just one, although we have a lot of good information. Every day this week, what one physical item of clutter can you release? Just one thing. And at the end of the week, you're going to have 7 items that you can donate, that you can sell, whatever that you can do. Have a daily gratitude practice, and then just practice being aware every day. Again, this is something that just takes a couple of minutes a day. How do I feel today? How's my body feeling? If you're struggling with something, check in with your body. Where is this being held? What am I ready to release? Just begin building that awareness muscle.
Beautiful. I've got all of those written down. I hope all of our listeners have as well. Julie, you have a very popular podcast. Tell us where we can find that, as well as if anybody wants to reach out to you for one-on-one help.
You can go to reawakenyourbrilliance.com, all one word, and there's a link if you want to follow me on social media there. And my podcast is Clearing the Clutter Inside and Out, iTunes, Stitcher. It's on the website, but if you just Google that, you'll be able to find it.
Fantastic. And we will have all of those links in the show notes. So if you are listening to this on either iTunes or Stitcher Radio, be sure to click on those show notes and you can go right from there. Julie, thank you so much for your time and for sharing this and for overcoming everything you have to now go out into the world and help people power their lives. We so appreciate it.
Thank you, Kristy, and thank you for sharing your gifts with the world.
If this resonated with you, please share it with one person who comes to mind. Investing in yourself is the best investment you're ever going to make, because when you improve your life, everybody around you improves their lives too. Subscribe to this channel so you are really sure to catch our next power session together, so you can continue to power your life to one of more service, value, and love. Until then, power your life today.